have been her face.
He's taken another one and another, and Howard Foster has stopped it. Wow, that is going to be controversial.
That's a crunching right hand, and that must finish it. It must finish it.
Taylor trying to catch himself, using his jab, eats a right hand, another right hand, and he goes down. Oh my goodness!
The dream is made real. Ricky Hatton rocks the world with a truly stunning win over a modern legend. He is the champion of the world.
Yes, people. We're back again. Raps on TV live from London, reporting all the best things in boxing. Looking forward to this week's show. It's been quite an action-packed weekend, namely overseas. But we did have a good card on the Friday from Eddie Hearn's Matchroom Next Gen show. Really looking forward to today's show. We've got a packed panel here with Tom, Dwayne and Rafi. So looking forward to hearing gems from all of them today. Guys, how you doing, Tom?
Yeah, good. Thanks, Coach. And yourself?
Yep, I'm good. D?
Yeah, I'm blessed, man. Happy to be here.
All good, man. Looking forward to tonight.
Yes, exactly, guys. So I think for me, there's no better place to start than the agenda. So really on the show today, we're going to be discussing the Usyk position that is now become a mandatory for the WBO. So he will face the winner of Joshua versus Ruiz. We'll also talk about the Next Gen show, which took place last weekend at York Hall. This Friday, we've got O'Hara Davis returning to the MTK show with Ryan Walsh, who is headlining. So that should be a packed card down at York Hall again. And over in the States, we've got Richard Commey, my Ghana man. Chale, what's up, man? We got him defending his IBF belt against Raymond Beltran, a real solid season contender there. And I'll maybe talk about a little bit about the Charlo versus Adams, but got to interview Brandon Adams yesterday. Really nice guy who won the ITV Contender Series, so good to kind of get some knowledge from him. And we also have Andrade versus Sulecki, so that's taking place this weekend as well. So like I said, packed show, all different levels, international, local, but a packed agenda. So no better place to start really than a Usyk announcement. So guys, the WBO announced that Usyk, who is essentially the super champion, will become the mandatory for AJ versus Ruiz. I guess I'm going to put it out there to all of you guys. I mean, What's your thoughts on that? What do you think of that as an announcement?
Yeah, I think it's starting to sizzle up a bit now, this heavyweight division. I mean, it kind of already did sizzle, and now it's kind of been, put to the barbecue, and things are really starting to, marinate. I think kind of the way now Ruiz has kind of taken that power baton that we've spoken about in recent weeks from Joshua, and now for Usyk to be WBO mandatory, I mean, leaves other, heavyweights on the sort of outskirts of the division, which is kind of, again, another sort of polarizing topic that we're going to dive into. But I think Usyk brings a lot of credentials to this division. I think his footwork, his mobility, his boxing brain is compared to a lot of heavyweights out there that aren't particularly sort of mature in that sense or nurtured to the same degree that he has with the Ukraine squad, with the likes of Lomachenko, Gavozic, and all those fighters. So I think it's an interesting time. Usyk then again has to contend with the power moving up to heavyweight. Dwayne spoke about it off camera. A very valid point there, because stepping up to heavyweight is a completely different ball game. You're going to have to contain that power. You're going to have to know your distance. You're going to have to be able to sort of negate the powers of the likes of Wilder, Joshua, White, who are powerhouses, Ortiz.
Even Ruiz, I know we don't kind of say it, but even Ruiz, you've got to say he's a powerful player. He knocked Joshua down 4 times. Never seen that before. So no, I agree with you on that. Dwayne, what's your thoughts on it?
Yeah, I think it's a dangerous time for heavyweights with Usyk in there. It's more or less like what Tom said. The key point for me is going to be, can Usyk take a punch and can he throw a punch? If he can do both, then he's a threat. He's a threat to the heavyweights because he's got the best boxing IQ. Yeah, I think when you're talking IQ, the only person that's probably going to match up with him will be Fury. Yeah, in that regard, Fury will have the height and reach advantage. Yeah. Other than that,
maybe an Ortiz, but it's the age of Ortiz probably goes against him, you might say.
Yeah, and Usyk's a big guy, Yeah, really and truly. Even though he's coming up from cruiserweight, he's a big lump.
Yeah. Rafi?
I just think it's an inevitable part of being an elite pound for pounder. You're always going to be thrust straight into the limelight the moment you get moved up a division. I mean, we saw that with Usyk most recently. I guess guys like Diddy and White will feel quite aggrieved in that sense because they've been waiting. Is it 600 days or 650? Something.
To this day.
To this day. 650 days. And
Yeah.
I suppose that's for the
600 days.
WBC, but it's an inevitable part of moving up. When you move up
Yeah.
and you're an elite pound for pounder, you're going to be put straight into title
Yeah,
shots,
100%.
Exactly.
whether you've mixed it there or not.
Yeah, and I think you hit the nail on the head there. I think you look at Lomachenko, he's done something similar. Crawford has done something similar in terms of unifying. Billy Joe didn't unify, but again, his champion status allowed him to compete straight away. So it's kind of the done thing. I think you are right. And I think, there's no better place to start than add a bit of controversy to the conversation. And you mentioned it, 600 days. One thing I do think about that is, why is nobody asking, well, Eddie, what did you do at 300 days? What did you do at day 300, 400, 500? Why is it now 600 after a loss that Joshua's had, where your number one star potentially isn't your number one star? So I find that interesting. But ultimately, you're right what you're saying. I think that's just the way the cookie crumbles.
Yeah.
It is hard for Dylan White because he's fighting tough fight after tough fight, but
And that cookie's gone stale now. 600 days. So
600 days.
that's gone. You ain't touching that cookie.
Nothing's going to salvage that.
Not in this lifetime.
Yeah, so I mean, knowing that he is going to face the winner, that's potentially we're looking at next year. I guess the only thing that would kind of block that would be is if Wilder decided he wants to fight Joshua for all the belts, which potentially could happen.
If Joshua wins.
If Joshua wins, exactly. Because I'm just saying, I don't even think... Actually, well, yeah, even Ruiz, but I don't think they would do that if Ruiz won. I think if Ruiz beats Joshua, I think Wilder might say, you know what, let him keep a bit. I don't know. But I would say, who is the harder opponent for Usyk? And I want to start with you, Rafi.
Out of?
Joshua and Ruiz.
Joshua and Ruiz. Stylistically, Ruiz, and outright Ruiz as well.
Yeah.
Yeah. I think he is a harder opponent.
Anything you want to... Anything specific that makes you pick him?
I think that with Joshua, it's quite easy to negate that with the boxing IQ difference. It's Joshua's stature and his physical abilities that give him that advantage in that respect. So it would be a tighter affair with Ruiz, who is similar dimensions and isn't a one-punch knockout artist, similar to Joshua in that sense. Not a one-punch knockout artist, but hasn't got a massive amount of power either.
Yeah.
100%.
Dwayne?
I think Usyk. What's the question again? Is
Who's
Usyk
the harder fighter for Usyk, Joshua or Ruiz?
I think probably Ruiz as well.
Yeah.
Because it's going to be more of a like for like with boxing IQ. AJ, exactly what Raf said, really. I think he just rounded it off perfectly.
Yeah.
AJ, the blueprint's there now on how to beat him. The blueprint isn't really there on how to beat Ruiz. Regardless of the fact that he lost against Parker.
But it wasn't it wasn't as
Exactly.
dominating a performance as what Ruiz put up on Joshua. I agree.
And that's
So-
why it's very dangerous for all the heavyweights. Now.
Yeah.
Usyk, I'm telling you, Usyk's a problem, you know.
Yeah, exactly. And I think you hit the nail on the head there. And Tom,
No, I agree 100% with
Clean
Rafi.
sweep,
I think,
right?
I think Ruiz is a lot more robust
Yeah.
than... Joshua's a lot more robust than Ruiz, because Joshua not only has that physical dimension, but he's not as... Although you look at Ruiz and you think he's not really looks the part in terms of, physicality or sort of just like in terms of just being shredded, but he's a lot short, he's a lot... he gets on the inside a lot quicker and is able to kind of push up the shots, whereas Joshua kind of walks forward, robotic, throws shots. Even though he's got a lot of power, he's able to, especially Usyk, who's able to spin off fighters, able to kind of, tuck up and move around and use his feet. He'll be able to kind of get around Joshua a lot easier than Ruiz, because Ruiz brings the pressure, he brings the heat, and whether Usyk's able to contend with that, as Rafi said, at the elite level, where he's going to have to adopt those elite attributes and then push that over into the heavyweights. I honestly think Usyk can be a major player in this division. I think I wouldn't be surprised if in the next 12 to 18 months we don't see an Usyk Wilder fight, an Usyk Povetkin fight, an Usyk Dylan White fight, because Usyk, people are going to look at him and think, rah, he's a cruiserweight moving up to heavyweight now. Is he really going to have the same credentials as a lot of these heavyweights who are seasoned heavyweights? Wilder, remember, although he hasn't fought anyone of any caliber in terms of until now, he's had 40 fights at heavyweight, whereas Usyk hasn't had a fight at heavyweight. So
and that makes a difference.
Yeah.
Because he's used to dealing with like the weight and physique of heavyweights, as
exactly.
you say. Even if they're not high caliber, he's used to dealing with that type of pressure.
Precisely.
And he's got that punch power.
Yeah, exactly. And that's a good point. I think the other thing, and I do agree in a weird way, I think the Joshua fight, you would look at if Ruiz out of Joshua. Ruiz is probably the harder fighter also, because I feel that he's showing that he can take a punch, and actually when he takes a punch, when he gets hit, obviously he got knocked down, but he took some big shots later on.
Yeah.
He adjusts well. Whereas I felt in that fight, and I watched it back again on the weekend, Josh Ruiz, and even when Ruiz started hitting Joshua like in the 4th and the 5th rounds, he didn't take him out, but Joshua's legs were wide apart. Like everything was just all over the place, and I just feel like someone like Usyk, you saw it in the belly fight. You know what I mean? He was very vicious in terms
relentless.
of and ruthless in terms of how he finished him.
Yeah.
And I just think once he smells that, I think it potentially could be a bad night. It could be a bad night, and it might not even then be about the power at that stage. It's about just being constantly be able to hit the guy.
Yeah, definitely. And Usyk's got the fundamentals as well. He's got, like we touched on, the footwork, and even those minuscule little fractions in and out of distance. When Josh was able to throw that right hand over the top, whereas with Ruiz, he wasn't scared of taking a shot. He's walking forward all night, and he would have done it all night if he got put down 5-6 times in that second round. He'd have come forward. He would have started throwing shots. So it's Josh was. There is vulnerabilities there, and we're not going to discredit Joshua because of what he's done. But at this elite level, when the pressure's on and the stakes are high, you've got to be able to adapt on the night. And I just don't think on the night he adapted. And that's just being critically honest. I think Joshua's a superb fighter. I think he's an elite level fighter.
Yes.
But again, there's that bracket of upper elite level where you have a Fury, a Wilder, and potentially a Ruiz now. But he's got to prove it.
Yeah.
Ruiz has to prove it now. So.
I think that's the sad thing though, and I don't want to make that the debate, but I think he has proven it. Do you know what I mean? He's beaten Joshua.
Yeah.
He came off without a full training camp, but everyone's just like, no, there wasn't a real Joshua. It was an imposter. Like we just don't want to give him the credit that he probably actually deserves. Do you know what I mean? He's proven it. I've never seen anyone deal with Joshua the way he dealt with him.
But realistically, do you ever see Joshua coming into a fight like that again?
In terms of
I think it depends on where it's at.
But what specifics do you mean, like in terms of...
He didn't look right from the bell.
The
You
weird
saw that.
things,
You were there
that's
yourself.
what I'm saying.
You were only
And
a few feet away.
Exactly,
Yeah.
and there was things I noticed there, and even when I watched it on TV, like I said, on the weekend, there was something off, but you just don't know. So who's to say that leading up to the second the rematch, the same things don't occur?
Yeah, and no one's asking that question. It's superb because if you look at the sort of the outer sort of periphery of the heavyweights, when a fighter of that magnitude takes a defeat like that, no one ever asks about would he return to that level?
Yes.
Would he have the mental stability to get back to that level? So it's all about kind of channeling that psychosis of fear when you're at Madison Square Garden. We saw it with Katie Taylor. She underperformed on the night.
Yeah,
She used to blowing people away in the amateurs through to the.
You reckon she
through to the
underperformed?
pros. I think she did, and that's coming from an Irishman.
Yeah,
so
yeah,
that's coming without being biased. I have to be
Yeah.
100%. Delphine Pursoon won that fight.
Yeah.
She won it by 2 rounds, in my personal opinion.
Because
but
she was good enough, or because Katie underperformed?
I think Katie underperformed.
You think Katie underperformed?
But then
Yeah.
people are going to say.
But
that
I
she
would
did
agree with
enough,
you on that.
so.
Do you know why? Because I feel if they were to have a rematch, I feel Taylor wins. As weird as it sounds, and it's slightly different with the Joshua because, again, it was a bit end to end. And you are right with what you're saying. All the weird things that like the delay from the changing room, and again, I think I said to you, in the corner,
massage.
I saw the massage and I filmed it because I was thinking this is weird.
Gum shell hanging out the mouth.
Right, all the chewing, so I saw that from the TV and I was like, wow. But you know what? I just have to say, at the end of the day, he knocked him down, and if it had been all over, all of this stuff would have just got put to the side, and we would have been like, he's conquered America, he's done that. But I think, again, it's Ruiz. Ruiz came back, had a game plan of like, I'm going to tuck up and I'm just going to fight for my life. Yeah. Joshua didn't show that, and that's, Do
you know what? Another point to consider as well is, will this win have had a negative effect on Ruiz in the rematch? Because I'm watching him on... Exactly. It might just be... you might have a role reversal. Where now AJ might have the hunger and the spite he needs.
Yes.
Ruiz might be all happy. He's gone to like the White House in Mexico.
That's what I'm saying.
I've seen him on Instagram. Yeah, parades.
He's got a new Rolls Royce.
Going to the Lambo shops. It might mess him up.
Exactly.
And one thing I hope as well is that AJ seriously turns on this eye of the tiger thing.
Yes.
100.
You can't be on this stay humble. No. You got to go in there wartime.
Yep.
The mindset that he had for... It could all just be psychology or psychological. The mindset he had for the Miller fight is probably what would have won him the fight. Just the sheer anger and spite. Letting Ruiz hold his belts, all this is too comfortable.
And especially when Miller was absent, like the minute he failed the drugs test, that sort of feeling of absence, there's not something there for him to get up for and grab it, And I think with delay with Ruiz, I think he brought a different sort of mental problem for Joshua because no one expected him to do what he did.
Yeah.
And I think as well in terms of the rematch, I think it's a great thing to kind of look at, because when you look at sort of Joshua now having to recoup and go through the same process of training 8 to 12 weeks of hard graft to prepare for a fight like that, knowing that if he has all the things in place, you know, his strength and conditioning, his dietary requirements, etc., Ruiz might be looking at him thinking, well, I've got your number now, but how do I know that you're not behind the scenes doing an extra sort of 10%, 20%?
Yeah. And I think that's the beauty of that fight. And I think there's definitely a mental edge around this fight where he has to now really focus. You know, Eddie Hearn said in the interview, the IFL interview, he's like, we're not thinking about what's the next fight. Whoever he fought before, it was always, when is it Wilder, when is it Fury? This one is all about Ruiz. Yeah. November or December, it's all about Ruiz. And I think that's going to allow us to see something different from Joshua. But maybe it's a slight bias, but again, just seeing how the team Ruiz reacts, I don't think a coach like Manny Robles, who's very, very experienced this season, is going to let him sort of like down the tools or down his morale. I think he's going to say, you see what you've got, like this is potentially all you could lose. Yeah. Whereas I don't think Joshua ever looked at Ruiz and thought, I've got so much to lose. I just think, I'm just going to keep winning, keep getting more money. That's why this fight is just amazing. I still think Joshua could beat Ruiz because he's got the power. I think if he uses the attributes to his ability, like just stay behind the jab, I still think he can win. Whether it'll be exciting, it doesn't matter because we're talking about belts here, right? So,
do you know what I think as well, just to add to that? This fight is going to be won in the training camps.
Yeah, 100%.
It's a war of the minds. Yeah. It's going to be about who's got the right mind when that bell goes this time round.
Yes. Yeah.
Is, like I say, has the fame, the money got to Ruiz?
That's what we're going to
Does
find.
AJ have the hunger?
Yeah.
And it's the exact same role reversal that you're talking about. Because before the fight, it was all about, AJ has to be this next billboard star. You know, we have to make sure AJ's at the pedestal of American boxing. But he won't focus on the job. It doesn't matter where you go. If you go to Jupiter, you go to York Hall, you go to the O2 Arena, you go to Madison Square Garden, you go to Rhode Island. The job is still to beat that guy and prove to yourself that you're a heavyweight champion. And we saw it in the ring. He spat up his gumshoe. It was like a modern day version of hide and seek, hiding behind the referee, spitting out his gum shield like, where's my gum shield gone? Like looking around thinking,
Even
like, have I even spat my gum shield out? Looking for a way out.
Look. So. Especially when you compare that to how Fury rose from the death. That's what I mean about the mindset thing, because Fury was absent of mind, but what was in him was just, I'm not going to give up.
But that's his mental, and I totally agree with his mindset and the mindset that translates into a fighting spirit. And I just don't know from what, I don't know. And you know what? The one thing I would say is we can't dwell on this too much because this week is a different topic.
It shows that we're talking about it 3 weeks after the fight. We're still talking
about it. We talk about it every week until
there's always
December.
If it hasn't even been announced.
It hasn't been
announced. And I would honestly, even when it gets, if it gets announced, I'm not even saying, I would still be like, I won't believe it until I see them in the ring because I still feel somebody's going to pull out with an injury.
But just to tag back into what you're saying at the same time, Kodjo, is it's the agenda that brings up the subject. Yeah. Because this Usyk now. Yes. And I think as much as we talk about it, if I was in AJ's camp, I'd be telling him don't even acknowledge it. Yeah. Yes. Because fucking hell, to think to yourself you got to get past Ruiz and then Usyk's waiting. Yeah. That's a bad look.
Dangerous game, brother.
Yeah. And how does it exactly? And then it's mad. And there's a lot of business sides to come to that. So I was going to say, just quickly moving on, Richard Commey's fighting Raymond Beltran in the States on Friday for his IBF title. Great fight, great opponent. Guys, we've had Meki Amu in the studio a couple of weeks back. Obviously, that's his fighter. Just say a couple of words on Richard Commey. Good luck. What do you think he's going to do in the fight, performance-wise?
I think it's really important to push for that Loma fight because that's something that's been talked about for the best part of 3-4 months-ish. And to push forward, this is a must-win for Commey. And it's on you probably expect him to get through as well.
Yeah.
I guess just wish him all the best and, just see how it plays out.
Perfect.
Yeah, wish him all the best. And again, like, Beltran's a great fighter, so you have to take your hats off to Commey and his team for taking that kind of fight because Beltran's been around the block. He's won a WBO version of the world title and he's defended it and he's fought top quality operators like Pedraza. He fought, lost to Pedraza marginally. And then who else has he fought? He's fought Vasquez, who was tipped to be an upcoming. Then he fought Iwaka, the Japanese guy who was 19-0 before the fight. So
and he beat him as well.
Exactly. Good resume.
And that was a good knockout as well. Again, just want to say all the best to Team Commey. Do the best on Friday and get the job done. Last week Friday we had the Next Gen show headlined by Conor Benn, who got an emphatic win in words of Eddie Hearn Also on the undercard, we had Craig Richards versus Andre Sterling. We saw Cheeseman go to fight to a draw. I mean, guys, overall, what did you, one, make of the card, and two, make of, I say, Conor Benn's performance? I'll start with you, Tom.
Yeah, I think particularly with the Cheeseman and Conway fight, I thought Conway boxed superbly. Another MTK fighter that's got to get a massive shout out. 14-0, I think, before the fight, or 11-0, or you know, with an unbeaten record. But I think sort of stylistically, Conway brought a lot of you know, credible attributes to the fight that would have given Cheeseman a lot of problems, especially having taken that defeat to Garcia for the European title. You know, Conway wasn't probably looked at as a highly ranked domestic contender, but looking at his height and his range and the way he was switching and he was throwing shots that we probably wouldn't have even expected him to throw. No. So he gave up a great account of himself. And just quickly, Conor Benn. I mean, we're all talking about Conor Benn. Oh, he's a bit stale in terms of like he's not. You know, he doesn't focus a lot on his boxing. He goes out there swinging. But
it brings excitement.
Eddie Hearn is right. He is always in exciting fights, whether it's negative, positive, or just we don't expect him to do this. I think the fights with Josh Kelly in the future, the fights with, I mean, the 147-pound division is booming. Like, we talk about heavyweights, but 147, I mean, even at world level,
it's busy.
It's crazy, man. But yeah.
I mean, with Ben, sorry, go on.
No, go ahead.
No, I was just going to say, with Ben, and you are right, I think he done well in that fight. He definitely came out, he put it on the guy. When I just look at him, I just think 147, I just don't think he's going to do anything. And I don't want to be overcritical, but there's so many sharks in that division, do you know what I mean? And I'm just thinking, who is he even going to get? How is he even going to get to a title? Do you know what I mean? Like, I don't know, it's a tough one for him. But I guess if it's a making weight, it's a case of making weight. Probably lightweight's too much of a big deal for him. But yeah, I don't know. And
that's like with Josh Kelly as well, because like with Adam Booth telling him about how we're going to steer him into a shot at the world title soon. I mean, he wasn't even going to fight David Evanesian, and he's after winning the European title. And we saw what La Harriga has done in the you know, the division. And then for Avanesian to stop him in 8 rounds, something crazy like that. So even Avanesian, you think as a fighter, is he going to be able to elevate himself to world level when you got a Spence, Crawford, Porter, Furman, Garcia, even Khan? Like Khan got
still
brutalized.
Still
Do you think they could be trying to make him the new Khan in the sense that he's not expected to go all the way to the elite level,
Ben?
but Ben in terms of bringing incitement to the table? So
I was thinking that.
Man.
Yeah,
and maybe not even necessarily like making him the new Khan, but it kind of is in a way, but not for like having the glass chin and that, but just for going all out and having exciting fights. You know what I mean?
There's definitely correlation there. I can definitely see Ben being pictured as this new Khan because one, again, he's got that exposure after his dad's name, and there's that kind of billboard image where we think Conor Benn, we can take him to the US, we can take him globally, similar to Conor. He's fighting in Saudi Arabia, so there definitely is a correlation there. I think that could be a
that's an interesting point. I'd never even thought about it, but you're right. And even if you look about that transition in terms of becoming a household name, I'm not saying Conor Benn can easily do that, but I think you could probably get a PR campaign to back him because of his father's name. Yeah. You know what I mean? You get his father back on TV. You've seen Chris Eubank and his dad doing the celebrity goggle box. So it's all about that transition. And I know we laugh, but again, for those guys, it helps them become a bit more.
It's important.
It's important. Khan is a bit of a household name at the end of the day.
Yeah, of course he is.
I would say he is. Exactly.
International.
So I think I've never thought of it like that. And I think, you're right. Because what that does for Matchroom, at least as a business, is that they have somebody that's a ticket seller, that is an attraction. I just think, you could probably paper over his cracks and say, well, okay, he's not fighting for world titles, he's not fighting the elites, but he's still going to give us a good night down at the O2.
I think that gives boxing a lot more exposure. I know it's kind of going a little bit off topic, but we see all this like terrestrial exposure with the likes of Tommy Fury's gone on a reality TV show. We've seen Gogglebox Celebrity Edition.
Well, the Khan fight's going to be on Channel 5.
On Channel 5. So in terms of like everything kind of amalgamating and coming together, boxing's in the healthiest position it's ever been because the way things are fast tracked, the way social media, the way other platforms have elevated. There's a lot more interest now in boxing because people are going on these shows. We think, oh, well, like you've been on First Dates, or you've been on EastEnders, or you've been on this. It's all showing that like boxing is a global.
It's evolved
field.
with the dynamics. It hasn't just stopped.
Exactly. It's definitely evolved. So also on that card we had Craig Richards versus Andre Sterling. Dwayne, what do you make of that fight?
I'm going to be honest with you guys. I didn't get to see that one.
Okay, no worries.
There's no point in me bullshitting you.
No, we can't watch all of them. I'll start Rafi.
Can I say one thing though?
Yeah, go
ahead. The fight that did stand out to me for different reasons. The Sinclair fight, Dwayne Sinclair fight.
Yeah, Anthony
Fox.
That he lost. Man. I missed. I did see that. Yeah,
that was a good fight. It's like, I think Sinclair probably needs to work a bit more on the fitness and the stamina. I mean, shout out to Sinclair. We had him on our platform back in the day as well. He's a good guy.
Yeah.
Trains with Boatsi,
Seems like a
etc.,
really nice
etc.
guy, yeah.
And I'm sure they work very hard in their gym. He's even, I think he's managed by Dillian White as well now. So I wanted to definitely catch that one. And I think watching the fight, it seemed like a stamina issue and maybe just working a bit more on technique.
Yeah.
Because Sinclair comes from an MMA background. And there's a big
I didn't know
difference.
that.
He comes from martial arts, similar to Dillian White, the kickboxing thing.
Okay, yeah,
And there's a big difference in your stance when you're doing boxing as opposed to doing kickboxing, etc.
yeah.
Like with kickboxing and mixed martial arts in general, you usually stay a bit more upright.
Yes.
And boxing, you kind of crouch down a
crouch
bit
down,
more.
exactly.
Yeah.
So it's just these little small things that I think he needs a bit of tweaking on.
Yeah.
Stamina, etc. Maybe his dietary, I'm not sure.
Yeah.
And the jab, like there were certain things he was doing right and wrong, and that fight to me actually stood out more than most. To be
That's
honest.
really
I didn't
interesting
watch
because
it.
that's kind of like that's put a kind of a blank canvas over things because like you were touching there, like with MMA styles, you usually because you're grappling a lot, you're pulling people in, you're standing off a lot higher, whereas boxers come in low, they throw shots, and I think it's amazing to think just quickly with the whole fights that start the night out at like 4:30, and they tend to be like the most interesting fights. It's crazy, but it's showing that again, like if you put a mediocre on paper fight at 4:30 on Facebook, and it tends to blow up, and it's like the interesting fight that everyone talks about a week later, then that's surely adding to the growth of the stable match.
And the sport. Rafi, I know you want to say.
I think going back to Conor Bennett could be dependent on Chris Eubank as well, because that's going to be because talent alone isn't what's going to push Conor Bennett. And his dad, he was a household name, but he wasn't international. For them to push Conor Bennett in the angle that you guys are mentioning, they're going to have to. It's going to be dependent on Chris Eubank's success as well, because they're always going to build between that.
Yeah,
but there's a massive gap in weight division.
There is.
Yeah, so I don't think there will ever be a rival, but you just think in terms of
you don't think so?
For the.
Well, no, because look at his brother now, the Eubank's brother. Is it Harlem Eubank?
Harlem,
He's been talked about a fight with
Harlem
Conor
or Seb,
Seb, but I mean, sorry. So who? Because are you talking about Chris Eubank? Or are you talking about the Eubank name as a whole?
Seb Eubank.
So Seb Eubank. Sorry. Yeah.
Sorry.
Yeah. Sorry. I thought that's what.
Junior instantly.
I thought you meant. Yeah. So okay. Yeah. So on that sense, yes. I think that's definitely a seller. I just don't know whether if the Eubank. The Seb Eubank is going to be of the quality. Is it Seb or is another one?
Harlem.
It's Harlem. Yeah. Harlem. I think that's him. Yeah, I don't know if he's going to be the quality, and if they're going to match him the same way as Ben. But I think you're right. It's definitely a potential. And I get just going back to the Richards Sterling. I mean, obviously we saw that fight. Richards won quite wide, knocked Sterling down a couple of times. I have to say, I think it was kind of like a mix and match. It was. I liked the fight in certain elements, but I also felt. It was a bit of training and this is going to sound bad, but it's a bit of training practice for Craig Richards because he's still kind of getting used to the light heavyweight division. Yeah. He fought sort of at range. He used the jab, which is what you do as a smart intentional. But if you want to go to the next level, I think you have to be trying to knock Sterling out and be pushing the fight. And for me, I felt Sterling was pushing the fight, but he just wasn't good enough. He was sloppy and he just kept getting caught from a counter-attacking perspective.
Yeah, I think that's a great. I think in terms of assessing Richards' performance, as much as we want to kind of see him get to that top level, he definitely has to improve on certain things because you look at Joshua Boatsi and how spiteful he is, getting people out of there in like 2 rounds where they've gone the distance with world level fighters.
He performed well in Madison Square as well, didn't he?
Yeah, I know the opponent wasn't great, but still he did what he needed to do.
Yeah, because it's the stage.
Exactly. Yeah, so no, and that's what I was going to say because I didn't see anything. I do think that's an interesting fight. I'll be honest. I like what they're saying now is that they don't want to make that as a domestic fight. So obviously Craig Rich was supposed to fight Boatsi next.
Yeah, but they're friends, aren't they? So.
Exactly. But they're both kind of saying, I feel like they don't want to make that fight. I feel they want to make that fight when there's a bit more money on the line. And I think Craig Richards, now he's got his WBA Intercontinental, potentially could go away. Again, you look at that division, it's stacked with killers, so you don't know what he's going to do. Yeah. But again, if he can go away, rustle up some fights, and then they make that an 0-2 in about a year's time, I think that will be a good look for both of them. They both get a big payday.
Yeah, definitely.
But I didn't see anything from Craig Richards that makes me say, do you know what, he could maybe pull a shock against Boatsi. I think Boatsi's going to keep proving himself and moving to the next level. So obviously we've got the MTK show. In fact, you know what? We've got a couple of callers. Let's go out to the lines. Going to go out to 175. 175. The floor is yours. Hello.
Hey, how you guys doing?
Hey, we're doing good. Hey, who's on the line?
Oh, good. Yeah, this is Derek calling from Shepherd's Bush.
Oh, I want big man.
Yes. Yes.
Hey, what's up, man?
What's going on? Yes.
Yeah, man. My opinion, and I'm just going to touch on the fight that shook the world, and I've got to say it that way because it did.
Yeah.
In my opinion, I really don't think AJ was ready, and what I mean by that, I think he really took this guy pretty lightly. He took him very lightly. I think if he had gone in with the aggression that he had for Miller, I think it would have been a different outlook. However, if we looked at a few of his fights, and we're going all the way back with Dylan White, right? You know, it's Dylan White and a few other guys rocked him with
Klitschko,
that same
Takam.
punch.
Yep.
Right? And if they probably had followed through, again, it could have been another result. And Ruiz, he found the blueprint, as they put it.
Yeah.
Now, the other thing that I have to say is that thanks to Mr. Mayweather, all of these guys are looking for what you'd call a zero now. Okay? That cannot happen in the heavyweight division.
Yeah.
We will not get that in. If we were to go back in the history, I think it's only was Rocky Marciano heavyweight.
Yeah, Rocky Marciano was the only one. Yeah.
He fought a lot of bums as well.
So he was
Yeah.
right. Yeah, right. Okay, but when we go through that heavyweight division, you've got the Muhammad Ali, you've got the great one, Mr. Tyson, right? You got Lennox Lewis, and all of these guys take a loss, right?
Evander
They've learned
Holyfield.
from that loss. Exactly. So most of these heavyweight guys, they've learned from their loss.
Yeah.
All right. Now, to me, this is a major loss for AJ because I think everybody underestimated Ruiz.
Yeah.
I don't think there's, apart from the few who really know how this guy fights, everybody else underestimated him. My only hope for AJ is that, okay, he's going back in November, right? And he really, as one of you guys already said, he's got to use every minute of every hour of every day of every week for the next few months to get it right.
Yeah.
Okay? To go in there with what he's got to do and do what he's got to do to move on. Because, in my opinion, again, one way or the other, I thought one of the three in the top three at the time would have lost. Would have lost to each other. Like you got Fury up there and you got Slaughter up there.
The hammer.
Right? And all of that. So I figured, yeah, whilst he's up in that arena, yes, one way or the other, somebody would lose. Nobody expects him to lose to Ruiz. Now, as one of you guys also stated that, yep, he's going to come in. He's really mixed up as they say, he's muddied up the water. Ruiz has muddied up the water. I don't know if it's a lucky shot like what happened with Buster Douglas and Mike Tyson.
I think it was more than that.
It could be a lucky shot. But then again, it could be something that he's got the blueprint on for AJ.
Yeah.
But if AJ win it, then you've got this other big guy, Mr. Ozzy.
Yeah.
As you guys already say, he's going to create trouble.
Man.
What do you think about Usyk there, Sir D?
Usyk, no. The last fight I saw of him before he went up there, I think he did very well. So I know he's going to be a problem child for these guys. The only problem, and I tell you, Wilder. Now we all agree that Wilder really is not a boxer, but he's been so lucky with that right hand. It's not true, right? He has been, because when he hits you with that right hand, I mean, he does put people to sleep.
Yeah.
Fury was the only man who flat out and got back up.
Yep.
Right.
Twice.
But yeah, he does put people to sleep, and I did have a concern that if he did catch AJ, if that fight ever did take on, he could put AJ in a lot of trouble.
Yeah.
Although
Fetal
AJ
position.
would do his
Big
best
time.
to get back up. Yeah. So, but I think the heavyweight division is coming up pretty strong. You know,
Definitely.
pretty good, and I'm looking forward to more more exciting bouts. as
More
the
rumbles in the
episode
jungle.
No, appreciate
That's so true. That's so true.
Definitely, man.
appreciate that, Derek. Listen, thank you very much for calling and taking your time out of the
Thank
day. I appreciate the support and hope to hear from you in the future for more shows.
Yeah, much
Yeah, man.
appreciated.
Sure,
Respect,
sure.
big man.
All right.
Bless.
Bless.
Catch
Cheers.
you. Good.
Take
Bye-bye.
care. Cheers.
care.
Bye. Going out to 910. I think that's Mr. Dare. 910. Hello.
Raps on TV. What's going on, Coach? How we doing?
What's going on? You good? It's full house today.
Yeah, I'm great, man. What's going on?
What's on your mind? Question or statement?
Everything's on my mind. Everything. You know how the game goes. Everything. It just doesn't stop.
Specifics.
Ruiz, to be honest, I just want to kind of finish off on that Joshua saga because don't get me wrong, we can go on and on about it, but I want to talk about other fighters like Richards and whatnot. But in regards to Ruiz, obviously he's feeling like the man right now because obviously he dethroned the invincible AJ, and the way he's talking smack now, and I want him to get like that, so he gets a bit gassed. So I want Joshua to have that kind of hunger back in himself.
You want to see Joshua with those belts again?
Yeah, Ruiz is talking real hard.
To be honest, I do and I don't because if he gets the belts back, it's going to be the same old shit. We're going to be waiting for, excuse my language, we're going to be waiting for the same old nonsense with, Wilder trying to dangle the carrot of, I've got the one thing you need to unlock the undisputed. So to be honest, it doesn't do the world that bad. There has to be, if Ruiz has to vacate his belt and Joshua isn't successful, he's got a mandatory or there's not a special exemption, put in a clause of, the belts and the governing bodies because. The IBF are pretty strict on their mandatories and who they have to fight. So if that splits up, then I want to see like someone like a Dillian White stick it to like not a Parker, but like a Usyk.
Ortiz. I would like it to be
Ortiz.
Yeah.
Ortiz. Yeah. You get what I'm saying.
Yeah.
That's what I kind of want to happen because I feel like there will be a lot more variety in the heavyweights, and I feel like Dillian White will get what he deserves. I think he will get to world championship status.
Yeah.
I don't think he will maintain it, but it just depends on the belts and the governing bodies falling in his favour in terms of them forcing fighters to relinquish belts to open up competition, to open the floodgates. But the heavyweight scene is very interesting. Dillian White's still got to handle his business against a tough Oscar Rivas, not Ruiz, sorry.
His brother's coming down.
But he's still got to handle. And Rivas is a tough fighter. He's not no pushover. I've seen some videos of him, and I think he's going to bring it to Dillian. But ultimately, I think Dillian's left hook.
Richard Sterling, what's your thoughts on that fight? Or Conor Ben?
I'm
sure you're a Conor Ben fan. I'm sure you called in rating him at Conor Ben before as well.
That's Joe Feck.
Yeah. Not Ben, do you know what? Well done to him. He's showing he's improving. I don't think the guy was amazing. I just feel that was another, not journeyman, but, he done well. He got done well with the second round stoppage. He's showing that he's taking his boxing skills more seriously. He's listening to his trainers and he's becoming more of a mature fighter. And we'll see what he has to offer. I'm still not convinced on him yet, but great performance, and I'm not taking anything away from him. Spider-Man Craig obviously came to do his thing. Really happy for him. Really happy for the way he's progressed. I do think people like Sterling, he should be flattening. I've seen Sterling up close. I've been to a number of his fights when he was on small hall shows. He is a good talent, but I don't think he's at that level yet. And I think that Craig, the Richards-Sterling matchup was good. And one thing I like about Sterling is a bit of a talker. But the thing is, he hasn't really backed it up like with the nonsense he was doing with Buatsi and trying to rattle him up. And, he's a very, like me and you both know, Coach, he's a very humble, calm, collected guy. Doesn't really look for no trouble. But, Sterling was calling him out, saying, look, I'm ready for you. So I feel like he was kind of, because he got that big shot at the big time, and obviously before he fought on, I don't know did he fight on the Gal Eubank card?
Yes, against Ricky Summers.
Yeah, he did, yeah. So obviously he was getting a bit hyped and gassed. Obviously now he's gone from being on the small hall York Hall show and those Brentwood shows to now obviously getting to the big lights and the O2 and then to a decent promotional banner. He's got a bit ahead of himself, but I think he'll make a good journeyman for the future. Not being rude, but that's how I feel. He'll kind of be like not Derek Chisora, but like someone who will build a fan base over the time.
We just had Derek on the line.
Carson Jones.
Yeah, exactly. I'm so disappointed about Galahad though.
I know you didn't call in last week, man. To be fair though, you done well because I was going to bring that up and say you were probably the only person that called in and said Galahad would win. You think he would make it sneak it, and I think as much as I'll be honest, I felt that Warrington won. Galahad did more than I thought he would though. To be fair, yeah. But you done
Galahad's
well.
my guy, man. I wanted him to win. He should have won personally. I think he was up by 2 rounds.
You sure that's not a bias? I don't know about that.
Give yourself a pat on
2
the back.
rounds.
2
rounds,
Kojo,
bro.
I like you, but this is where we're gonna fight because I don't really.
Don't do that, man. I don't want no problems.
Team Leeds are listening in. The Leeds fans.
So no, but on that, I mean, you're right. Galahad done well. I think you know what. At the same time, as much as it's a loss, he still showed that he could come up and again he can compete. So I think moving forward, I think it's a good look for him. You know what I wanted to ask you actually. It's a question for you. I don't know if you've heard, and we're going to put it to the studio after you answer. There's been an announcement that Pacquiao versus Thurman will not be VADA tested. What's your thoughts on that? Positive, negative?
Obviously, that I think that's completely negative. I think that these guys are doping, and a lot of American fighters are doping, and they're getting away with it. And I think it's just a cultural thing. It's just something that's engraved in the sport of boxing. And like a lot of other trainers, I don't know who else said it, but it's unless someone dies from the sport, unless someone gets badly knocked out and injured, and they find out there's substances in these guys, that they're going to take this thing seriously. And it's just the way people, we're acting like, not just America, but even in the UK, worldwide, drugs is a thing. Like PEDs is a big, big thing. Not just in boxing, but all the other sports. It's just because boxing's such an intense sport and extreme sport. There's more light shedded to it. But like footballers dope, all kinds of all other athletes dope. So, but the VADA thing, I just think there is ways about it. Some people could argue that VADA is a waste of money because they're still very corrupt and whatnot. Because
they did snatch up Big Baby Miller though, didn't they?
Yeah. Well, the thing is, but then nobody can punish him. And you're right. I think it's not a good waste of money, but I think I get what you're saying because they couldn't punish him. So all VADA can do is saying this guy's taking
Flag
this.
him.
Yeah.
Exactly, and then you could
It's a reporting system. It's just a reporting.
There's no punishment.
Well, I think
when you go for a job in a big firm and they do your CRB checks and all the background, they just report the information to the employer.
But then bear in mind with that point though is that if we didn't have VADA for Big Baby Miller, you might have had Miller holding the belts right now.
Exactly, with drugs in him.
Yeah, fucking.
I reckon what they've done is.
Miller, no, that wouldn't happen.
How do you know?
What, you think you wouldn't have won all that road rage?
Exactly. Yeah.
Yeah, but we don't know. I mean, you can't say that. Like, no matter what, I just think after Reeves, we never know.
I'm not even.
I mean, it's all hypothetical
So
now,
you're an AJ
right?
fan, isn't it? AJ fan, right?
He's Team AJ.
AJ
man.
protector.
But what I reckon
AJ,
they've done
AJ
is they've walked
protector.
into Burger King. Yeah. What I think is VADA and all the other governing bodies.
What did you call him?
Now, what I'm saying is all the governing bodies and like VADA and all them.
Yeah.
And what I reckon they've done is in sport they've walked into Burger King. They've gone to the customers. They've gone to the sales reps. They've gone, look here, just inject whatever you want into these burgers, but we'll pay you this amount of money so that when the governing bodies do pop these athletes for taking drugs in their system, we'll just leave it to the side. Don't worry about that.
Slide on that Mexican meat.
VADA, don't worry about that. Burger King will look after it, and then Miller takes whatever he does, and then all this other bullshit that goes
A real
on.
steakhouse. But listen, Sam, thank you. Before I let you go, I was gonna say last point you want to make before we move forward.
Last point is, do you know what? I just think shout out to Rats on TV. You guys are getting the great content. Obviously out in the June 1st. You guys got some really good content. I didn't see other media outlets get. Keep doing what you're doing, and hopefully, if we could get a couple PBC boys on the show, I'd love to hear their kind of perspective on things. Because I feel like it's the only platform I get to speak to these guys directly.
Yeah, 100%. Yeah, definitely.
Soon
That's the aim, exactly.
Soon come.
So listen, appreciate your support as always, Sam. Thanks for tuning in.
Guys.
We'll speak soon.
Take care, mate.
Cheers, man. Take care. Yeah, so on that point, because Dwayne raised it before we started the show, was the Pacquiao Thurman. So, I mean, what's your thoughts on it as a whole?
Terrible, it's terrible. Yeah. And it just brings me back to the whole thing that Mayweather kept on saying that he didn't want to fight Pacquiao unless he was doing the Olympic-style drug testing.
Yes.
And that was the biggest sticking point. And a lot of people, like, they even get their memories wrong. Everyone's like, oh, no, Mayweather was ducking him. It took too long to make the fight. It took too long because Pacquiao refused to do the blood test.
100%.
Everyone forgets that. They just say it took so long. They forget that, and they forget that Pacquiao lost twice as well.
But the proximity was too wide.
Yeah.
Sorry, it was too short for Pacquiao. Do you think it was reasonable? I think Freddie Roach said to have blood taken from your fighter in how many days was it?
But it's VADA testing.
Yeah,
so
like
VADA
with
testing
VADA.
is random.
Yeah,
so
yeah,
what Matt Mayweather wanted was random. So as an excuse, it might sound logical, but the way the process is, it's any time. So it's the morning. I think apart from the morning of the fight, they don't draw blood, or maybe the morning of the weigh-in. I think it's not possible. But any time up to that, from when it's announced up until like literally, let's say the press conference, you could be drug tested, and also it's about your scheduling. So the why VADA is so intrusive is that you have to tell them where you're going. If you're being VADA tested, you come in Raps on TV studio, you've got to let them know.
Come bust the door off.
If you go a detour, if you make a detour at Five Guys for an hour and you don't tell them, that's actually classed as even being as a no-show testing. So even if imagine you just go and pick up something from Five Guys down the road, literally. They turn up here. Where's Rafi? Oh no, we don't. He's not here. Okay, bye. He missed the drug test.
That's bad.
So that's why I think I agree with you. I think people should start saying, actually, wasn't Mayweather asking for this? Isn't there a theme here that Pacquiao didn't want it back in the days, and now he's going back from it? And Pacquiao, in some of the interviews I've seen, he seems quite agitated. He seems like he really wants to get at Thurman.
And he's got, it's terrible because he's got rocks in his legs. How is he 40 years old and got rocks in his calves without taking something? Like, but it's honestly, it's a
But how did you jump so many weights? And we can
obviously
we can talk back and forth about that. But I just think it's a super bad look because what I found funny was, and obviously you brought it up, but when I saw it yesterday, everyone was saying, "Oh, it's a pay-per-view, it's a pay-per-view," and I was like, "Forget that, it's a pay-per-view. It's a world title fight. Exactly. We're going to abolish the regular champion. We're going to have one WBA champion." And they're probably going to be on something because it makes sense. I don't have any facts. I'm just speaking. That Thurman probably takes something because he's recovering. Pacquiao's old, so his style needs something.
If I was Thurman, I'd be like, do you know what? Bun Pacquiao. Look for that Porter Spence winner. Because what like Thurman's fought, like look at Thurman's resume. He's fought Garcia, he's fought Porter, and you think Pacquiao's 40 years old. He's coming on, but he don't look like he's coming. Look like he's 24, fresh as a daisy. Got rocks in his legs. Probably injecting. No bullshit aside. Like probably injecting shit into his teeth. Looking, I've got straight teeth. I'm 40 years old, and then having like a physicality of a 16-year-old. How are people not pulling up on this stuff?
My point is this: as much as you're saying Thurman, I think if Thurman's okay with it, because he would have read the article as much as we would have. He's not out here saying, I think this is a disgrace. I've asked for this. I've repeatedly. He's silent just as Pacquiao is. So if you ask me, they're both in it together. I think they've made a mutual agreement. Do you want VADA testing? No, I don't really. Okay, do you? No, I don't. All right, cool. Let's not do it.
What they're doing is
off to go see Baby Miller.
Right. Who upped out Baby Miller. So I think for me, that's a really interesting one.
Off for a picnic.
Canelo's barbecue.
Right. And then so you got the MTK show, O'Hara Davis. I guess you could argue a man whose career is in a bit of limbo, was pushed by Matchroom. Even in the IFL interview, you hear Eddie Hearn say, "I've not seen O'Hara for a couple of years," and I was like, "Has it been that long?" I was like, "It's only last year that you threw him under the bus, not 2 years ago."
And Eddie's been hiding as well after Joshua defeat, so he's still mourning that.
Still mourning that. But yeah, so I just think I don't know. I was looking at O'Hara Davis and I was thinking, okay, Lucy was fighting Vasquez. I thought, okay, yeah, you would expect it to be run-of-the-mill performance, but I don't know whether MTK are trying to test him to see, look, have you got the eye of the tiger, you saying, or are they trying to throw him under the bus? Because I looked at this Vasquez's record, and this guy's kind of serious, or he was serious.
Is it the same guy that boxed? What are you talking about, Beltran?
No. I snapped. You know what?
They're the same division.
So he probably did fight Vasquez. But this guy's fought Canelo. Back in the days, like 10 years ago, I was like, snap, fought Timothy Bradley. He was a world champion for a good few years. Harvey Davis has never been a world champion. So exactly. So I think it's going to be a really good fight. I don't know, what do you guys make of, obviously, MTK as a whole, but Harvey Davis making his return? I'll let anyone wants to pick.
I think he shot himself in the foot. I think there was an IFL TV interview that I saw. He said, "I'm only in it for money now," and that sort of makes sense at the end of your career. We've seen Chisora do that, we've seen De Gale do that, but this guy's not even midway.
Yeah, exactly.
Or would you say he's before midway?
He had all the promise. That's the thing. O'Hara had so much promise.
It just shoots yourself in the foot because who's going to take you on as a promoter?
It's like when we went to Moreno's back in like 3 years ago and went to speak to him before the Josh Taylor fight. He looked hungry. He looked like he walked into the gym, no word of lie, got out of his car, and when he walked to the gym, you could just see in his eyes he's focused. Where's the focus now? He started up a YouTube channel that's made him look like an absolute tit.
I think he did that himself, to be honest. It just like before.
I
the
think that
comments you made,
enhanced it. I agree with you, but I think the YouTube
because you know the Hillsborough stuff.
Yeah.
That was
that's what
Well,
fucked
yeah,
him
and
up.
it's not as if like YouTubers like AJ where they've proven themselves. They can set up YouTube channels because
Exactly.
they've proven stuff. Whereas no disrespect disrespect to O'Hara Davis, because we've had him on the studio and he's always given us time. But you can't be running your mouth saying that you're going to do this to fighters, you're going to do this, and like you said, he's not even past that halfway stage. He's fought one fighter who's gone on to become a world champion in Josh Taylor, and arguably the best. Super lightweight. Exactly.
What's the best win on his CV? Derry Matthews.
Derry Matthews.
Is that his best win?
Derry Matthews
Probably, yeah. I mean, in terms of
He retired
name,
after that.
yeah, exactly. In terms of name, I think the guy that he fought, the Italian guy he fought for the WBC silver, that was a good win. But again, performance, it was a good win on name from a CV, but the performance didn't match it.
Yeah.
For me, I just think with O'Hara Davis, and like I said, he came on the show. I liked him. I think he is a cool guy. I just think he needs somebody in his team to just sit him down and say, look, this is the direction you need to go.
A mentor.
I just think a mentor, the right business advisor, because I think he's not as good as he wants to be.
Yeah.
But it doesn't mean he can't have a good career, because there's something about him people like. If you look at probably out of that camp, he's probably the guy that gets the most eyeballs, you know what I mean? So it's how they channel that and tunnel that into the right thing.
I understand he's done well for himself to be controversial and get himself a profile. People are always talking about him. If he rocks up to a show, you always know O'Hara Davis. Like, you know him to see him. He's a name. But I just think like all this rubbish where, hi, I'm going to turn up to an O2 show, dye my hair orange or dye my hair
It's
pink.
attention seeking.
It's
attention
But do you know when I knew that O'Hara was lost?
brand.
Was before he even blew. Was when he, exactly what Tom said, when he dyed his hair yellow, and he said that Barry Hearn told him it was a good idea. That's when I kind of knew it was already over for him. Because I thought that means you don't really have a mind of your own.
That's a big no.
And also, I think matchmaking wise, and I, in some way you got to give Eddie Hearn credit, but letting him go to Scotland to fight Josh Taylor
and wasn't even in attendance.
No, but Eddie Hearn didn't even want him to take that fight though. So what it was that Cyclone offered
him a large
amount of money because they knew he was a good scout for them, and he said, "I want it." And Eddie Hearn was like, "I don't think you should take this." And he was like, "No, I want it because of the big." I'm sure he spent all that money now anyway.
His entire team should have prevented him, because that's where it went wrong for him.
Exactly.
On a profile wise, he was all right up until that point.
Yeah.
It's that beating that he took, man.
Yeah, and they abused him in the build-up.
Yeah, I was going to say also because he quit, right? So it's like he quit. And it was literally all in the mouth. Like when you've got a mouth like that, or you want to be, you can't quit. You can't lose like that.
Nah.
Do you know what I mean? Same like you was talking about your Mayweathers of this world. Like when you have that personality outside of the ring, if you lose, like it needs to be.
Good luck.
Because you know you're going to get slated. Because especially one turning your back on a fight and not wanting to continue.
That's what I mean.
And then all the abuse he got in the pre-fight at the conferences. And we saw with Frampton and Quigg, with Cyclone and Matchroom, how there's hostility there between those two.
Exactly.
And O'Hara Davis, like you said, Dwayne, hasn't got a mind of his own. It's a frailty to be acting like that at whatever age he is, 20, 24, 25, wanting to steer your career in the direction of getting these big fights, but then just giving yourself up to someone that's going to just say, look, we just want you here as a credible opponent. You've got 14-0 on your record. You look all right. But then get abused and get beaten like he did, then to be like, oh, right, thanks, O'Hara, but we're moving on now.
Yeah.
And you know, and on top of that, he got a second chance with Frank Warren.
Yeah.
And then he fucked that up.
Yeah, messed it up.
The only reason I'm not saying anything is because we don't know what goes on behind closed doors, and I'm a bit like.
We know that he loves his barbershop.
Yeah,
I mean, I don't even. You know what it is? I mean, and you're definitely right. I think that's definitely a walk all life. I just think for me, it's always been from my interactions with him, from interviewing him, and at some point, it's what you put out there. Like, and if you want to be so social media, like, not even oriented. It's like you said, this attention. Yeah. And you got to expect the criticism that comes with it.
Come with it.
If I was him, you should have known that you're not a world beater. Like, look at the division he's in, right? Like. What's he gonna do against a Regis Progress?
Yeah.
Like fuck all, you know what I mean?
What's he gonna do against a Hoka?
Exactly.
But is that to compensate then for the fact that he knows there's a thick ceiling on top of him?
I don't know. I think I don't know. I can't answer that. And you know what it is? It's more because it doesn't make sense that you know you're not that good and you talk more. Do you know what I mean? A lot of guys
because you have to.
And like you don't really have to. I think everyone's just taking this Mayweather thing and thinking that's what you have to do. Look at AJ. AJ didn't do that.
Yeah, AJ didn't do that.
But he had the marketing juggernaut behind him. Mayweather didn't have a matchroom. That's why.
And you're right. But I think even Dillian White is popular. He didn't do that. Okay, you may say it's heavyweights. But there are fighters out there that don't have to follow Terence Crawford. Yeah,
100%.
You know,
realistically, if Dylan hadn't... Pacquiao as well.
Yeah. Yeah, was
No,
gonna say.
I was going to say, if Dylan hadn't signed with Matchroom after the AJ fight, would we know about him as much as we
No.
do?
Might have
We
been with
wouldn't.
Frank Warren though.
Yeah, this is. I don't.
No,
I
would
don't
say-
see it personally.
Could have been.
No, but
We
even
know
if he
Dubois.
had, I
We
don't
know
think he'd be
Dubois.
as...
I don't think he'll be
You
a
reckon
pay-per-view star, so maybe that answers the question. Maybe the answer is no, because I would agree. If he went to Frank, I don't think he would have been a pay-per-view star in the way he is now. I think if he's pay-per-view, you don't moan about it. Like people say, yeah, he's standard. I think he could have still done well, but you're right. I think under Frank Warren, I just don't think he's got the model at building pay-per-view stars and you respect it, because at the moment we're paying pay-per-view for Fury, Fury Schwartz, that was not worthy. Crawford Khan, we had to pay that. Again, not worthy. So I'm trying to think, when was the last good pay-per-view Frank Warren's done?
Was Warrington
Yes.
was that pay-per-view?
Was that
Was that
free?
free
No,
to
that
air?
was free.
That was free to air.
That was free
BT
to
Sport,
air. Yeah.
But that's the difference in the level of promoters, because you see Matchroom and Eddie Hearn, and with Dylan White, before he even got onto the main stage, we saw him with the amateurs, the story he has with Joshua. That's the thing with Eddie Hearn. He's good at picking up on things on the outside, little marketing strategies where if someone fights, this big pay-per-view star that Joshua goes on to be in the amateurs, there's a story behind that. Whereas Eddie Hearn's able to intercept on those sort of issues, whereas Frank Warren is a little bit more old school, so he kind of waits for the fighter to develop as a fighter, gets to 8, 9-0, and then mold him into a pay-per-view. That's what he's doing with Gorman and Dubois.
That's
He hasn't moved with the times, and he's the only one. You look at Bob Arum. He's no spring chicken. He's moved with the times.
It's true though.
Yeah, and it's not just Bob Arum. There's other people as well.
Don King.
I think
Don King.
what's
People
going to help.
Shout out Al Heyman.
Yeah, Al Heyman, 100%. I think what's going to help Frank Warren, truth be told, is probably his son, how involved his son gets in, because all those guys, you need a bit of youth. But I think also the BT platform.
But do you know what?
The BT platform, the production is going to help.
But at the same time, Kojo, he tried to bring his son in.
Yeah.
Do you remember a couple of years back? Frank was bringing his son in.
Yeah.
I don't think his son had the
That's what I'm
swagger.
saying, but he was at the Warrington Galahad fight, and that's what I was saying at the time. I don't think he was. I'm not going to say he wasn't capable. I know what you mean about the swagger, but I didn't see him. He didn't seem interested as well. Whereas this time he seems interested. So,
but you put Eddie Hearn and Francis Warren on an X Factor, Eddie Hearn will piss it.
yeah,
It's gonna fly through.
I mean,
That's why Barry can just sit back and let Eddie do the job.
That's it, mate.
But then look at Poxon. Poxon's the same. Poxon's got this link with PBC's, in my opinion, not doing nothing with it, and ultimately, I feel it's a nervous
What
thing.
happened with ITV and
Exactly.
Popcorn?
So then, so I don't know. He's still the link between them. So actually, shout out. They're going to be showing the Charlo versus Brandon Adams fight on the weekend. ITV3. Obviously, it's early hour of the mornings. I think they've also got Pacquiao Thurman. ITV will be showing that as well.
Jarrett Hurd, Julian Williams was on
that was it, exactly, yeah. So he's had a few, but he hasn't had enough, in my opinion. I think he should be doing a lot better, but we'll focus on that. So the last fight I want to come to is Andrade versus Sulecki. It's taken down in the Dunkin' Donuts Arena.
Big fight.
What a place. Dunkin' Donuts Arena.
Beautiful.
Amazing. Down in Providence, hometown title defense for Demetrius Andrade, so it kind of makes sense. What do you guys make of this fight, knowing that Sulecki obviously has lost to Jacobs in the past? You think it's a good test? You think Andrade's going to just clean him out?
Yeah, I think Andrade's going to run rings around Sulecki. No pun intended. But I think Andrade. I think Sulecki's a good fighter. He's obviously proven that he can. His durability against Jacobs. Andrade stepping up every time. The Billy Joe Saunders fight fell through. Stepped up.
Yeah.
Another fights are falling through with not falling through, but they haven't been nurtured the same way as we expect them to be kind of marinated and brought to the forefront. Maybe like a year, 2 down the line. But Sulecki's a great fight, I think, for like a learning stage for Andrade being a world champion.
I have to say, I'm going to be a bit critical and say that I think this is the last fight I want him to fight at this level, because I look at the middleweight and I look at the division. I'm saying, it's not super stacked with like killers compared to welterweights, light heavies, even cruiserweights to a certain degree. So I'm like, you know what? What is the hold up? He needs to push this. Either it's a Canelo or Triple G. I don't know if Jacobs is going to stay at the weight, but I think his next fight after this has to be somebody that's got a title. I think anybody else after that, I think, you know what? You're just holding on to the belt. Do you know what I mean? Literally, because I'm just thinking, like, okay, Sulecki is a decent opponent, but we want to see more from Andrade. Andrade had a bit of a hiatus before he signed to DAZN. So we knew he had the talent, but we just didn't see it come to fruition. Now you're with a big platform, something that's going to back you money-wise. I just want to see him in good fights, because otherwise he's just going to wilter away. I don't look at him as a feared world champion at the moment. I think he's a very skilled boxer, but I just don't think he's fulfilling his potential. So
not like a Canelo or Jacobs or Golovkin, because they're fighting, they're stepping up to the plate, they're fighting each other, they're just they're boxing off each other. Whereas Andrade, there is an argument to say he is holding on to that belt too long for dear life.
Honestly,
because he knows that he when he fights a Canelo and a GGD, they're just gonna punch his face in for 12 rounds. Andrade's gonna have to.
Do you think it'll last that long?
Yeah,
I don't think so.
I don't think it'll last 12 rounds, man.
Yeah,
wow.
so be it.
But you know what? I think he'll give Triple G a competitive fight, but not Canelo.
Canelo, I reckon.
I think Canelo is now actually in his prime. Canelo looks terrible now.
I think because of the skill set, I see it for me, because I would say yes, in the terms of Triple G, could probably still beat him, but he could make Triple G miss a lot of shots. He can make it, but I think Canelo will probably punish him, and then he still probably can't hit his Canelo. Canelo's becoming a lot more well-rounded now.
Definitely.
Whereas Triple G is yet to be seen. Maybe we're going to see what Jonathan Banks does, but.
And it's like it's scary to think that the way Canelo boxed against Jacobs, like how composed and how clinical he was. Like he was literally like ducking, weaving, and honestly, Jacobs was missing like
in the pocket, like in front, like that was scary.
Skill set has gone up a notch.
So guys, we're gonna do this thing because we had a full house today. So I'm gonna go around and say last word from you guys this week before we sign off. I'm gonna start with you, Tom. Last word from you.
Just pleasure, obviously being in the studio again with
you. It can be boxing related
guys
as well. Anything you want, last.
No, just saying obviously continue supporting us on all platforms at Raps on TV. I mean, it's great to have Dwayne, on the team now. Great impetus to have Rafi doing his bit with the visuals and the making things, the choreography with the videos. Things are picking up. We're staying grounded, we're staying level-headed, but things are going to blow up very soon, and that's just the confidence that I think we share as a team. And I just it's a pleasure to be part of this. This movement.
Dwayne?
Yeah, I think Tom said it perfectly well, really and truly. I mean, for myself to have come at the early stages, go in and come back now and see what's going on, it's good, man. It's very impressive indeed, and good to be a part of it, man.
Good.
Absolutely.
Welcome on board, Rafi.
I think Dwayne was the final piece of the jigsaw in some ways, because you've got, obviously, me and Tom are very young. Obviously, not to sound condescending to ourselves.
What are you trying to say?
Like, Kojo's got that experience. Let's have someone else who's got that experience. Is that what you call it now? Experience?
He's saying you're old. You've had a kid now, you're too old, Coach.
I think, like to have, like, too experienced and too young, it's a good balance.
Yes, exactly.
Yeah.
And the passion as well. So from four corners, four quartets, all the passion.
We ain't even sweating because of the weather. It's just the passion coming out of our voices.
But guys, I want to say thank you for all the callers, all the listeners. For those of you on the YouTube channel, got an interview done with Brandon Adams yesterday. He's he's challenging Jamal Charlo for his WBC interim title at middleweight. He won the Contender that was recently shown on ITV. Spoke a lot in depth about Ward, about his competitor Eric Walker winning the title, taking 3 years out for a variety of issues, and taking sort of some guidance from Fury. So quite an in-depth interview, so if you can check that out, it's about a good 20-30 minutes. On the weekend, Tom was down at the McKee Elliott show, got a bag of interviews, he was grinding. Who did you catch up with?
Caught up with Bradley Skeet, outright British title holder. But yeah, man, like everyone's contributing their bit. It's not just the people that are going to the York Hall shows. It's the things behind the scenes that people don't see. The work that's been put into the marketing, the brand work.
Exactly.
We're not going to go into too much detail because people are listening in. You got little puppets out there,
you got to keep some secrets.
But big up everyone what they're doing.
Exactly.
But then again, big up every other platform that are doing their thing as well. Do you know what I mean? You've got to support everyone.
Exactly.
Everyone within even our inner circle support. So
well said.
Exactly. And they know they're always welcome to come and voice their opinions. That's what Raps on TV is. So listen, guys, just want to say thank you again. Follow us. Check out all our articles at www.rapsontv.com. Instagram, Facebook, YouTube, Twitter, all Raps on TV. So make sure you follow us, watch the videos, share our pages, and we're out.
Ladies and gentlemen,